Hi, I'm Lawyer Lee, and I've been wondering what exactly would ChatGPT say about those marks on John O'Keefe's arm? We know they're central to Karen Reed's case. On the one hand, the Commonwealth says John O'Keefe got some scratches and marks on his arm because he was hit by Karen Reed's car. She backed into him, the taillight shattered and scratched his arm up. He was found on the ground in front of 34 Fairview with snow on top of him and taillight pieces around him the next day. Now, Karen Reed says, no, that's not it at all. Instead, I dropped him off at 34 Fairview for a party. He went inside the house. He was attacked inside there, maybe by people, but also by a dog named Chloe, who was owned by the owners of the house, the Alberts. And that's Karen Reed's story. She says they took John O'Keefe outside, left him in the snow right there in front of 34 Fairview by the flagpole, let the snow cover him up. He died that night of a combination of a blow to the head and hypothermia. I decided, hey, let's ask. Let's ask ChatGPT what it thinks about the injuries on John O'Keefe's arm. I was just curious. Let's find out. Now, in the latest version of ChatGPT, you can put photographs in. So, what I'm going to do is put in a photograph of John O'Keefe's arm and I'm going to ask it what it thinks. I thought first, because I don't want to precondition it, I want just sort of ChatGPT's thoughts on this. Could you call it thought? I don't know what the right expression would be. So I'm going to ask it sort of more generically. I'm going to say, what could cause the injuries on this person's arm? So I'm going to ask, okay, what could cause the injuries on this person's arm? Linear, superficial to moderately deep lacerations and abrasions. These patterns may suggest, okay, you ready? Most likely causes, number one, animal scratches, e.g., from a dog or cat. Multiple linear marks in clusters are consistent with claw or bite related injuries. The varying depth and direction support defensive or reactive movements during an encounter. Number two, defensive wounds. Common on the forearms when someone raises their arms to block or shield themselves during an attack. Could result from a sharp object like a knife, glass, or fingernails. Number three, contact with sharp brush, thorns, or wire. If this occurred outdoors, especially in wooded or overgrown areas, it might produce similar linear scratch patterns. But it's number one is animal scratches. That's the most likely from a dog or cat. So that is pretty significant. It says less likely but possible would be self-inflicted, accidental scraping or falls against a rough or sharp surface like broken metal, wood, or debris, or a glass injury with shards causing multiple angle cuts, which would be about the equivalent of what happened here. Would you like a clinical or forensic style breakdown? Well, that sounds interesting. And do you know the contents in which this photo was taken? Okay, so I'm not going to answer that question yet. I would like a clinical or forensic style breakdown, but let's wait just a minute. First, what I want to ask it next, is it more likely those injuries came from a dog or from a broken plastic tail light, because it was not glass and the person's arm went into the tail light? Okay, let me see if is it more likely? Okay, yeah, we're going to ask it. Between the two scenarios, a dog versus a broken plastic tail light, the injuries shown in the image are much more consistent with a dog attack. Here's why. Pattern analysis. Number one, numerous parallel lacerations, many with curved or slightly jagged edges. Clustering of wounds on the forearm. Varied depth and spacing, suggesting multiple contact points like claws or teeth. Some wounds look like punctures or deeper gouges, not smooth incisions. All right, dog attack, highly consistent. Dogs often scratch and bite simultaneously, especially if someone is fending them off. Claws cause parallel scratches, often in groups. Teeth cause deeper puncture type wounds or tears, and the irregular pattern matches movement and struggle. Wow. Broken plastic taillight, less likely. Injuries from broken plastic usually result in fewer, cleaner cuts if there are sharp edges, more linear and mechanical lacerations, and cuts that follow the path of force, e.g., a single slice or scrape. You'd expect one or two long gashes, not this many jagged and varied ones. And unless someone fell or was dragged into the taillight, it would be hard to produce this number and variety of injuries from one point of contact. Okay. All right. Well, let's find out a little bit more. Here's one thing I want to know to detect bias. Do you recognize the photograph? Do you recognize the photograph? I can't recognize or identify specific photographs, people, or proprietary images. Oh, good, good. So it's I was a little concerned that maybe it knew, maybe it had been preconditioned related to this case, but it doesn't sound like it has been. Okay, but I don't know if I even read the conclusion up here. This is much more consistent with a dog attack, either defensive wounds from fending off the animal or a sudden aggressive episode. A broken tail light is a poor match for this injury pattern. Wow, that is really direct. That is very, very direct. Okay, let's go back to that question it asked me about, did I want a forensic style breakdown? Yes. Yes. A forensic style breakdown, please. All right. Let's see what it has to say on that. Adult human forearm, likely right arm, multiple lacerations, abrasions, and puncture wounds. Image reference seen on photo. Injury description 12 discrete wounds, lateral and posterior forearm. The types linear, puncture like, and abrasion clusters. And it says that's varying in depth and length. Some are parallel, others are intersecting of the linear, that the puncture like wounds are deeper and more localized. Now, that could be a dog bite instead of a dog scratch. Abrasion clusters raking or scraping against a rough surface. The orientation, the majority of them are angled obliquely or vertically relative to the arm's long axis. So, in other words, they're not running up and down. Clustering implies repeated non-uniform contact rather than a single linear event. Now, that alone is very, very significant because if he hit the tail light, that was a one-time event. His arm may have gone into it and then pulled out, but it wasn't repeated that he kept hitting the tail light. Mechanism of injury, comparative analysis, dog attack, highly consistent. Claw marks tend to leave multiple parallel scratches, often with irregular spacing due to movement. Teeth can cause punctures, tears, and deeper lacerations, which may appear in chaotic clusters. Dogs often grip and shake, causing tearing patterns inconsistent with rigid single object trauma. And that is actually what the expert for Karen Reed's side talked about, that there were multiple different places and patterns that could be associated with more than one event, like more than one bite, more than one scratch. Defensive wounds from fending off a dog often appear on outer forearms, the exact area shown here. The broken plastic taillight is unlikely. It would be more likely to produce one or two sharp, clean cuts that would follow the edge of the plastic. A predictable directionality, in other words, like in the same direction, and glass-like lacerations, which would be sharp, which would be linear, potentially embedded fragments, which are not observed here. To replicate this number and type of injuries, the subject's arms would have to be dragged repeatedly across multiple jagged edges, which is inconsistent with this pattern. So, absolutely fascinating. It appears fresh, trauma inflicted within hours, highly consistent with a dog attack, especially involving both claws and teeth, strongly indicate repeated biological contact, not injury from a single static object like a broken taillight. Wow, that is really fascinating. So ChatGPT is all in on the Karen Reed defense team idea that these are from a dog bite. These are not from a broken taillight. So absolutely fascinating. We go live on the Karen Reed case at 7 p.m. Eastern in the evenings. Please be sure to join us, and I will look forward to seeing you then at 7 p.m. Eastern.